Forward. Okay. All right, guys. It is Thursday, September 21st, 2023. It is now 7:01 p.m. Yes. I'm gonna do roll call. Sorry. Let's see here. Fred Jordan. I don't see him in here. Jonathan Kastner. Okay. Alan Parody.
Here.
Fantastic. Brian Phillips. Brian, I see you there. You're muted though.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that.
Fantastic. Stan Ronheimer.
Present.
And Daniel Smith.
Here.
And Marion Stay. Okay, I guess she's not here either. Okay, I'm gonna see.
Marion's here. She's muted.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry.
Yep, I'm unmuted. I'm here.
It's all right. So I'm gonna seat Brian for in the vacant seat, and I'll seat Daniel Smith for Jonathan Kastner. All right. On to audience of citizens. It is. Because most of everybody's online. Do you want? Okay. I will. Are you going to do audience of citizens or?
Yeah, be an audience of citizens.
Okay. So I was hoping to have this working, but I don't. All I have is this much top.
You know, I did just got one.
Sign on. Okay. Yeah, if you don't.
The president.
Right. So anyway, audience of citizens. Citizens may address the Planning and Zoning Commission on items that are not on the agenda. So anybody have anything that they want to speak of that's not on the agenda? All right, hearing none, on to item 3, approval of minutes. July 20th, 2023. Everybody have a chance to read these? If so, looking for a motion.
Tony, I'd move to accept the minutes as written.
Fantastic. Looking for a second.
I second.
Thank you, Marion. Brian, did you have a chance to read them?
The minutes I did not from last time, unfortunately.
No worries. Stan?
Good.
And Daniel?
No, my computer crashed today. I'm on a borrowed box.
Okay, I did read them. They look good to me, so I think we're good there. On to item 4, old business. Anybody, anything? Okay, hearing none. Item 5, new business. Item A is the Open Space Acquisition Fund, requested by the Deep River Land Trust to extend a portion of the municipal open space land acquisition funds for purchase and preservation of 136 Rattling Valley Road, map 64, lot 21. So we have. Oh, sorry, Lori. There's too many people on my screen. So Lori Giannotti's here, and it looks like your treasurer is here. So I'm gonna. Hopefully, she well, if you both of you have anything to say.
No, I'm just really here to support it.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I guess I could give you, do you want me to give you an update, Tony, on the funding, the situation at hand?
Yep. That way you can make
Okay.
an request and we can put it to a vote.
Okay. So we have a contract for this piece of property with $80,000 price tag. We have already, the Deep River Land Trust has paid the down payment of $10,000 of our own funds. We have been given a grant from the Gateway Commission for $20,000 to purchase this property. And I'm waiting to hear from one other funder. And that'll be somewhere between probably $10,000 and $20,000. I haven't heard yet though, so I'm not going to say anything else about that. But so we're at this moment in time, we are requesting $50,000 of the open space funds to purchase the property, which will be adjacent to Canfield Woods and also will connect to across the street to our Bidwell Preserve and then over to Rattling Valley. So essentially people can walk from Essex all the way down to Pratt Cove. Yay! What's not to love? I ask you, Planning and Zoning Commission.
That's why I turned the camera. Now you can't see me grinning ear to ear.
So, Lori, I believe I'm showing Rattling Valley Road here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Right?
so
Here's Rattling Valley Road. I've turned on the open space layer, which isn't comprehensive. But it's one of these parcels in here, right?
yeah, I think it's that one right in the middle there. Or
21.
move over one to your right there. 22A, I believe is,
That looks like it has a house on it.
It's
oh, okay, then it's 21.
2.5 acres.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can also see that's the headwaters. I mean, it's hard to tell on that map, but it's a part of the headwater drainage to Pratt Cove. So that is essentially one of the bigger reasons why the Gateway Commission was interested in it, as protecting the water quality of Pratt Cove, which is, as you all know, nationally significant, as is part of Ramsar and one of the fewest tidal wetland systems we have in the country. And so they're excited about that. They're also excited about the recreational use connection. So
John, real quick, if you go to layers and turn on town properties, then the Canfield Woods will show up because it's a town-owned property, not land trust property.
Thank you. I'll do that.
There we go.
There we go. So zooming out, we can see the huge piece of open space to the south, large open space connections to the north, and this being basically a connector piece.
Fantastic.
mhm.
All right.
Has there been any resolution to the question as far as the ultimate ownership of the property? Is this going to be owned by the town and be, because it's being annexed with Canfield? I know that was part of earlier discussions, but I don't recall if that has been hammered out.
I don't think it is hammered out. We would like for it to be owned by the town, but we will also happily own it. I think it makes more sense for the town to own it because it is adjacent to the town land. But
I know.
we haven't actually.
Go ahead, Lori. Sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking with Tanner, I know he said they would definitely like to take ownership because it's adjacent to Canfield, and the Conservation Commission oversees that. So I think that just for
Does that go happen just in the closing of the deed?
yeah. So I believe the way it's laid out at the moment is that the land trust will take possession of it for like 30 seconds and then sign it over to the town. If the Board of Selectmen agrees to that, which I don't, just in preliminary talks, sounds like they're fine with that.
Okay. And I guess the follow up to that question is there any difference relative to the ownership and the perpetuity of this remaining open space? In other words, if it's owned by the town, could it revert to a non-preserved use if the town found a higher and better use for it? Or is it and I'm just raising these points for the forward discussion amongst the commissioners to make sure that our actions of committing these funds is meeting the intent. So
I'm assuming you don't want me to answer that, right?
I'm asking anybody that would have knowledge of it. That's all. Probably John.
Well, so again, as Lori said, it's not 100% settled, but I think something that the town could certainly do would be to take ownership of the land, fee simple, and give an easement or a right to monitor and protect to the land trust, essentially to guarantee its maintenance and perpetuity as open space. So essentially, there's another party guaranteeing and watching that it stay restricted, which is certainly a recommendation that this commission could make. And I would just also point out, as long as I've got the floor, that in addition to making a recommendation about the expenditure of these funds, the statement by the Planning and Zoning Commission in this case would also take the form of an 824 referral, which is the Connecticut General Statutes requirement that anytime a town is acquiring an interest in a piece of land, a piece of real estate, or divesting itself of real estate, the town is required to consult with the Planning Commission for consistency with the Plan of Conservation and Development of the state statute. So this discussion takes that form as well.
So I mean, I'm probably have an attorney look at this, but so under our ordinances, it grants the Conservation and Inland Wetlands Commission regulatory authority over the Canfield Woods. And it looks like it's, I mean, it almost sounds like this, it's set up the same way a land trust is, where you can't get rid of it afterwards. I'm not saying that they can't, I think that's the way the ordinance reads.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a procedure.
Yeah.
We have to go through some serious loops.
So, I mean, should we put that, I mean, if we're worried about that, should we make it a motion that, can we make a motion that it can't be anything but preservation?
Yeah, I think that would tend to say, resolve that we'd commit the funds because we've committed to this collaboration. And that I guess stipulate that the intent is that the property, the acquisition of the property and the authorization of those, the funds to do it is with the intent that it is under the same, I don't know, regulation or oversight as Canfield. So I think that's kind of the basis of the intent, is to expand that property with the same intent of preserving it, but without having everything hammered out in terms of the ultimate ownership or management. If we just put that intent in the motion, then I think I'd be comfortable in fully supporting that direction and commitment of the funds.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? If not, John, I don't mean to put this on you, but how are we wording this motion?
Okay, so I would propose that the motion be made to issue a positive recommendation on the town of Deep River participating financially in the acquisition of map 64, lot 21, Rattling Valley Road, in an amount not to exceed, Lori? 40,000, 50,000?
Not to exceed 50,000.
Not to exceed 50,000, of which funds will be drawn from the town's open space acquisition account derived from subdivision fee in lieu payments. And that piece of land be subject to the same protection and restrictions as adjacent Canfield Woods properties.
I'll make that motion, but with all that stuff you said.
One second.
Yeah.
I thought we
I
had
think
an 824 referral.
So I said that at the beginning.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
A positive recommendation on that acquisition. That would be the 824 part.
I'm looking for a second, and then I'll go to you, Fred. I can see your hand up.
I'll second.
Thank you, Stan. Fred, what you got?
Should we be including any potential land closing costs and everything in that number that was proposed?
And lawyer fees and
I mean, you don't just buy a piece of land for X dollars and not have other expenses.
I just say that the $10,000 deposit was more than 10% of all our funding.
Okay.
So it is a burden.
okay. So I mean, should that be revised to 60?
Well, it sounds like there's still some additional funding that may be pending. Is this not going to go forward if we cap our contribution at 50,000?
Yeah, Lori, will that Right, will that cover all the fees? If you don't get the other funding?
I thank you. I think I heard Tanya's voice and thank you, Fred. I had actually forgotten about the attorney fees, et cetera. So I think I would feel more comfortable if you capped at 60.
And what do we have in the coffers to commit, Tony?
We have a little over 140,000.
At this point, I mean, now that we have a motion on the floor, so I think the way this is gonna work, and just because your treasurer just brought this up, is that if they don't need the whole 60,000, they'll just withdraw what they need. They're not gonna take the whole 60,000. Okay, just
Like
make
a
it
line
sure.
of credit almost.
Okay. Daniel, are you okay with revising your motion that John made? to
Yes.
60?
Yes, I make the motion with everything John said, including the 8.4 and the amend the amount up to 60,000.
Thank you. Stan, do you re-second?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, any more comments, questions, concerns? Thank you, Fred, by the way. All right, let's see, Brian
Yes.
and Alan?
Yeah.
And Marion,
Yes.
fantastic. All right, guys, looks like we're moving forward with this. Super exciting. Lori, you got your
All
hand
right.
up?
So, yep. Just for procedure, what happens next? Like whoever knows the answer to that.
I think we name it Bolduc Park.
Procedurally, this will have to go to town meeting.
And how does that? Do we have to initiate that from the land trust or?
No, we'll
What is-
work with Angus. Angus and the Board of Selectmen can set the town meeting.
Okay, and I'll just reiterate that the town, our contract says that we're closing on October 30th, and there's an October 6th. If the funds are not committed by the town by October 6th, then we'd be in violation of the contract at that point, so.
Okay. So the next.
Tony, is Joyce still there?
Can I
She's
speak?
in IT.
Oh, there she is. Oh, there's Angus.
That's not possible, actually, because we will put this on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance meeting on this coming Tuesday and move it to town meeting. But that will entail, we've got to get it published in a local newspaper at least 5 days in advance of the meeting. So, I mean, we'll look at the calendar, but I don't know how we can do this by October 6th. We can certainly do it before the closing time, but, I'm gonna have to look at the calendar and see how that works. But it will be on Tuesday night's agenda.
Lori, is it possible to get the seller to amend the contract? Having good faith that we've committed in spirit from planning and zoning, it has to move through town.
And hopefully positive from the selectmen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be on the phone in the morning and I'll keep you posted.
I have a real nice Deep River zoning enforcement officer windbreaker that we could throw into the deal.
There you go. Oh, goodness. All right. On to item B, appointment of an additional CEO.
So if I might, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Okay, Zoe, I don't know if you have an active camera. But I am happy to introduce the commission to my colleague Zoe Chatfield, who joined the Tyche Planning and Policy Group team a couple of weeks ago, and is going to be our new and improved Steve Natick in helping me serve the town of Deep River. Those of you who are already on the Plan of Conservation and Development call last week got to meet Zoe there. So she's going to be helping with zoning enforcement, Plan of Conservation and Development, and whatever else may be needed at Town Hall. But in order to officially do so, this commission, under its zoning authority, will need to appoint her as an additional zoning enforcement officer. And I don't know, Zoe, if you want to introduce yourself, say anything about your background?
Hi, I'm Zoe. I just finished my master's in community development and planning. This is, I think, my third week now in Deep River. So it's been really fun just learning about your town. I don't know. I'm excited to work with you. So
Really nice to have you. So I believe we need an official motion for this, John? Okay.
Correct. Please.
Do you want to make the motion?
Do I want to make the motion?
No, I said anybody.
Tony,
okay.
I'll make the motion.
Sorry, thanks,
If we
Alan.
can, is it, and this is an appointment, John? It's not?
Correct.
Okay. So I'd make the motion to appoint Zoe Chatfield as a zoning enforcement officer of the town of Deep River. We may have to stipulate it as an employee of Tai Chi, since our contract is with Tai Chi. Is that correct, John? That contractually we recognize?
Yeah,
company?
well, I don't remember how we did it previously. But I would appoint her by, I think it's appropriate to appoint her by name. And then
Okay.
the other thing is it's a hard key. It's hard Tai Chi, not Tai Chi.
Sorry.
All
All right,
right,
so we'll strike that last portion, Tony.
all right.
Thanks, Alan.
I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Marion. Brian,
Sounds good.
Stan,
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Daniel
Yes.
and Fred.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Welcome to the team. On to item C, Public Act 23-142 daycare facilities. And John, are you just addressing the just the daycare facilities or the whole spiel that was in there? You're muted, by the way.
Just the daycare facility portion. So in tracking legislation of this past legislative session for the Connecticut planners, this one slipped past the goalie. Did not notice that. So Public Act 23-142, an act concerning certain protections for group and family childcare homes, was approved and passed, and this is now law. So there's two sections that are relevant. So 8.3, which is part of the zoning enabling, states that no zoning regulation shall treat any family childcare home or group childcare home located in a residence and licensed by the Office of Early Childhood Education, early childhood, shall be treated in a manner different from single or multifamily dwelling. And then there is a further section that zoning regulations shall not prohibit the operation in a residential zone of any family child care or group child care home located in a residence or require a special zoning permit or special zoning exception for such operation. So what this describes, again, is childcare facilities in a home. Not a a large kid warehouse kind of daycare, but a family or a house based, basically shall be treated as of right in residential zones, in a manner similar to the state's laws regarding small group homes and things like that. And so the thing that I would note is, for instance, this is in our R30 zoning district. The use table, we have daycare facilities listed both for adults and children as special exception uses, which is clearly not in compliance with the recently passed state law. And I believe this is the case in all residential districts, that it's a special exception use. So just alerting you that we will need a tweak to our zoning regulations to basically convert those family childcare homes. And I think we probably want to add a nuanced definition to make sure that we're talking about just those daycares in an existing house to be treated as a site, essentially. So this will be I wanted to give everyone a heads up on this, and then let you know that we're probably going to receive an amendment to the regulations for next month.
So
John.
John, as I understand this, we would just have to change the special exception to ZP so that it's permitted. We still leave that category in there, so we recognize that use. And we have to recognize that use in all of our residential zones. And so if somebody does want to operate a daycare, they still have to say that that is the use, and not just a matter of de facto.
right.
They can do it because they have a residence. They still have to, in fact, identify that property as having that use.
Correct. They have to pull a license either with the state, and they have to get an administrative zoning permit from Zoe and myself.
Mm-hmm.
Only pertaining to in residences. If they were to build a
Correct.
kiddie house, still
Right.
special.
Correct.
And there's
But
no
it doesn't-
recognition of how many kids are being cared for in a residence. You could have 10 kids in a residence, and even though there may be some burden on traffic in a neighborhood, there would be no ability to look at that property in terms of
Right. There is
space, et cetera.
there is a number, and it's I think it's less than 12, but I don't want to say that absolutely.
Okay.
But it's a number definitely less than 12, and I don't remember if it might be 10, it might be 6, but it's definitely less than 12. But that's
And I remembered it to be 8, but that was a long time ago, so.
but yeah, we'll work with our the municipal attorneys are obviously scrambling to do this for 80% of towns who were caught kind of flat-footed on this. So we'll make sure that we define it properly and then slip a permission in the reg.
2 questions for you, John. If you don't mind bringing that back up for a second, because I have
The statute.
the regulation. I have a question about that.
All
and
right, hang on.
Yep, and in the statutes, the parking.
Hold on. So okay, you were so this is our all right. So
That's
yeah,
perfect. Scroll up just a hair. So if you look at the single family residences, it says over 4,000 square feet and in a gateway zone, it's still a special exception. How does that work? If it's a daycare facility now in that zone, is it by right? Is it a zoning permit and not a special exception? And also, how does that affect the new parking standards that just came into effect, where you can only require 1 parking spot per 1 bedroom and 2 for anything over 2? You may not have the answer. I'm just throwing that out.
Well, to answer your second question first, that parking thing is only for multifamily developments. That parking cap.
But
as far as the gateway, if you're talking about building a new single family residence that's over 4,000 square feet in the gateway zone, and that will also have a family daycare, that would be treated the same way. It would special permit because the single family residence is treated that way. So as long as you're not distinguishing, one is treated one way, one is treated the other way, as long as it's treated the same way.
Okay, and then the only reason I ask about the parking is because in a multifamily situation, if you have a daycare.
Right, good question.
I just read it today actually for another town. So with the parking, it can't be held to any parking minimums the way that the multi-bedrooms, where it's a parking space per unit, it can't be held to that.
So
Like,
even,
that can't be the reason to deny.
right, so even in the daycare, you still only get the 1 and 2? Okay. All right, and then,
I don't think
So
most
that-
of these kids are driving, Tony.
no, but
No,
if
but
there's
there's-
two parents there
there's-
dropping off,
There's drop off.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
so that would be in theory well, this is single or single or multifamily. Okay.
multifamily.
Right. In a residence.
But didn't it say daycare, also family care, so that could apply to like a halfway house kind of situation?
It's family childcare. So both references, hold on, I'll bring up the statute again.
Sorry, John, I just,
So treat family childcare home or group childcare home.
okay.
Which is not, so it's not a halfway house, it's not an adult care or other. So it again, it refers to family child or group child.
All right. Those were my questions. Anybody else want to ask John or Zoe?
So it's no action required right now, but we're going to bring a proposed amendment for next month. And actually, Tony, speaking of Gateway, because this is a text amendment that would affect properties that are within the Gateway zone, Gateway has to review and not prohibit.
That's why I asked about that. Okay, so we'll have something for next month, you say?
Yes.
Marion, you
Right,
get
yeah.
your hand up? You're muted.
Yep, sorry. And I think I heard John say this, that you're going to work on a definition in the definitions,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Because I think like the sort of the standalone daycare center, like a kid warehouse type of thing. I think in many cases you still want to be a special exception, but something in a home, we would want to distinguish that.
Okay. All right.
Project for Zoe.
So this is still part of that. It's not part of the daycare facility, but in that regulation was also, I wanted to bring this up and only because we're talking about it. Part of that was there was a restriction. Zoning could have a restriction for minimum lot or a minimum building size. And that is now out the window. We went over that with the regional planning committee the other day. So if I want to, I can build a 200 square foot house on my property. So tiny homes are now no longer allowed to be regulated by planning and zoning. They're only by the building code. So I thought that was pretty neat. I figured I'd address that because we had the public act on here.
Yeah. I don't know, Tony, actually, I'm not sure that we had a minimum square
What's
footage
that?
I'm not sure that we had a minimum square footage for a residential dwelling.
No,
Right.
but some
yeah.
of us, do work
Yeah.
in other towns, but we do as an ADU. It's 400 square foot minimum,
yeah.
800
Yeah.
max. So now that can be 100 square foot
It could
shed.
be. Well, there is an actual minimum that is required by building and health code that has to do with the cubic feet of oxygen, I think, in the
Yeah.
Alan may know this better than I do, but I think it's something around 120 square feet.
Yeah, I don't know what that number is, but we can find out if necessary.
He builds much bigger houses, that's why. He's that 4,000 square foot guy.
He looks like he's in a tiny house right now.
All right, if we're done harassing everybody here, on item C, I'm gonna move on to item 6, reports. ZEO, you guys are up.
Okay, so first things first, an update on 400 Commercial Drive, the waste management facility. And we have Angus and Tony on the call who have been involved in these discussions. We participated, well, I guess attended, participate might be too strong a word, in the DEP hearing on the licensing, the renewed and expanded licensing for 400 Commercial Drive to accept a higher volume of throughput as well as household waste, which is to say, common household trash. and we submitted a letter, and I believe actually some members of conservation may have submitted a letter as well, basically asking DEP to not approve, and barring that, to work with the town to enforce the local prohibition on the matter, and to basically respect the fact that they didn't just need state permitting and that was it, that they needed to receive and respect local permitting. We do not have an answer yet. I will say, and Angus, I don't want to necessarily characterize the tenor of the meeting, but my sense is that the DEP is probably going to go ahead and approve this thing, and we're going to be in a position of fighting the DEP for enforcement.
Yeah, that was my read as well, much to my disappointment.
Yeah.
So Angus has volunteered to even pass the election. He's going to be fighting this one personally, as long as it takes, right, Angus?
You bet.
Ugh.
So it's in process. We have not gotten an answer from the DEP, but we, our attorney is fully engaged in this and is basically prepared to continue to fight.
Okay. Any questions for John?
Yeah. Okay.
What attorney are we using to fight that?
We're working with Ken Slater from Halloran and Sage.
Okay, thank you.
Halloran and Sage is this commission. The town has a couple of different attorneys. This commission has chosen Halloran and Sage about, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And we're sort of served primarily by Rich Roberts for day-to-day procedural matters, and Ken Slater's the sort of land use litigator of that group.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Tony?
I got item 2, online permitting.
Okay. So online permitting, happy to report that in addition to the high-tech computer screen that Tony was not quite able to get working today, I apologize for that. So we have some of the advances in e-government stuff that we got a grant, that Angus and I got a grant for a couple of years ago, are finally rounding into shape. So we have a large smart board computer screen that will really facilitate high quality hybrid meetings, such that I suspect that we could probably, with the chairman's discretion, begin to have some more in-person stuff at town hall, with a strong hybrid component. And one of the other components of that government advance is a online permitting system to bring Deep River into the 21st, if maybe just slightly beyond the 20th century, of government engagement. So we are going to be using the company Brightly software company. The software package is called SmartGov. It's a I think a very good and pretty intuitive system that will digitize our land use procedures, allow people to apply for permitting wherever and whenever they want. They will allow Zoe and myself and Dick Layton as the health official, or the building official, and Crad as the health official, to review permits wherever we are. So the fact that town hall is only open, the land use office is open 12 hours a week, will not prevent people from being able to submit and track building permits and zoning permits remotely. So we're very pleased about that. That will be, hopefully contract will be signed by the end of this month, September, and we will have this rolled out in the fall and hopefully live early 2024. So
One question for you. Now, I'm not sure if the wetlands was missed on that, but you said sign
oh
off.
no, sorry, wetlands is included.
Okay, just curious.
As part of the suite. Sorry, I just didn't mention it. Yeah, so happy to answer questions about that. And so then, hearing nothing on that, I just want to remind commissioners, and I know a number of you have been in touch about this, that your training, your statutorily required 4 hours of training on land use matters needs to be completed by December 31st. Including, so 4 hours of training total, 1 hour of those 4 need to be concerning affordable housing. There are online opportunities, and there's also an in-person training coming up on October 28th at the Middlesex County Extension Center up in Haddam on 154. Is taking place. That's a 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock training, which will cover the full 4 hours on October 28th. And after this meeting, I can forward that link around for registration.
Does that include the affordable housing component?
It does, yes.
Okay. How do I get signed up for that?
I will forward around the link to everyone after this meeting.
Okay.
And then I will also just remind people that there's a link for the virtual training that is available on the UConn website that you can take anytime. And then so just would remind commissioners that once you have completed the training, please shoot me an email so we can track it.
All right, John, I have a couple that the RPC sent out too. I'm going to send them to you. You might not already know about them, but just.
Yeah, no, it's the one from Eliza. She just that's
Okay.
the one I'm going to forward around.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it from me.
Okay. Any questions for John? If not, on to 6.2, POCD. Marion, you're off the hook, huh? Because you weren't here?
Sorry, I spent the time in Newport. But I'm sure you guys did everything correctly or whatever with great joy.
Yeah, so I think we got halfway through what we were working on, and
I think we largely about half the discussion of infrastructure and transportation. And I sent around a worksheet, I believe I sent it around, if memory serves, on natural resources and open space.
Did you have that meeting at the beginning of September? Because I looked for a meeting time on the website, and I didn't see a POCD meeting, so I thought it had been canceled.
No, sorry, I did. And Dan, I'm sorry if I didn't include you on the email, but I sent a direct email to everyone.
Well, please keep me on that list, because I certainly would have attended.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll double check my list to make sure you're on.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why it wasn't on the Deep River site, because it doesn't.
Yeah, we posted. We definitely posted the agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
all right.
I just thought Aaron was away and it was postponed.
It was difficult to continue without you, so no more vacations. All right, on to item 3, attorney. Do we have anything with the ongoing? No?
Nope, nothing.
Item 4, chairman. I have nothing. I already spilled my beans about everything here. Let's see, budget, anything?
I have
Right.
nothing on that.
Good to know. The River Cog Housing Committee.
So there were 2 meetings since we met last in this forum, and discussed were ADUs, and John presented some great collateral to share with that group, and there was some great discussion. And then in the next meeting, we talked some more about that and about housing authorities across the River Cog area. I had a great plan this morning before my computer crashed to reach out to John to see if I could put some of that collateral up on the drive. So once my computer gets up and running again, John, I'll reach out to you to see what's ready for prime time to share. This month, I also met with our Deep River Housing Authority to bring them up to speed to what was going on with the work kits and tool kits and things that are happening with the River Cog, and had a great response. And I'm going to be basically a conduit to our Deep River Housing Authority on not necessarily formal, but on a regular basis to be sure that anything that we're picking up is delivered to them. And if they have any knowledge or anything or questions that would be outside of my bailiwick, I can get to those right away. There will not be a River Cog meeting this Tuesday because there's a housing forum, and I believe it's in Hartford. If anyone wants to attend that housing forum, I'm happy to share the link. Of course, I have to get back into my email.
That's on Tuesday afternoon.
Yes, yes. So that's basically it. I mean, it's still that. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
Oh, no, sorry.
So they're still taking off. There isn't really anything deep going on yet. The next thing that we're supposed to cover this Tuesday is inclusive zoning. And John was, I believe, going to help us with that. I think that soon we're going to have at least enough collateral gathered to bring back, particularly like for ADUs, to look at what we have as far as was mentioned earlier in this meeting, that we have limits on sizes. We may want to visit that and see if it works well as far as looking at putting ADUs towards affordable housing. In other words, we may want to make it more flexible. I'm not sure, John, how would we, I guess, would we sidebar on that, or would we set that up? How would we set that up to discuss?
Yeah, what we can talk about it. I have thoughts about the housing committee. Yeah, I would rather talk about offline.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is, at some point, if we say, okay, the sizes for ADUs, we currently say we want to allow them to be 100 square foot bigger or something, so that way it can be an affordable housing unit. How do we introduce that to this group to discuss? That's what I'm
okay. Well, I think just as a topic of conversation or preliminary discussion, unless we were ready to jump ahead and actually propose a specific text amendment to the regulations. If we knew specifically that we wanted to make, X number change, we could go ahead and propose it as an amendment. But I would say we would probably bring it as a single or a little suite of potential changes that we would have a preliminary.
Yeah, I think we need a few more. It's not quite mature yet, but I definitely see some opportunities for us to tweak what we have, and then based on the work that John has done and brought to that group, there may be some other ways that we can tackle this as a community. I have some questions about how all this was really audited, because it seems that there's the percentages that are in the report of what we have for affordable housing versus what may actually exist. I think there may be a huge delta there, or at least some disparity. So at any rate, there's no meeting this next week, just the housing forum, and nothing else to report.
All right. If you don't mind me chiming in on it for a second, if you guys are talking about this, I know there's the 30% or 400 square, whatever there was like a number, a percentage, or 800 square feet. And I think that 30% thing is, that can be a hindrance, because if you have a property that has 1,000 square foot house on it, you're reduced to just having a 400 square foot house. ADU.
Exactly, and we want these to be solutions that can help our community and not hinder us. And I'm sure when those were designed, there were reasons for that. But these new laws weren't in place, and these new goals.
So, yeah, just my 2 cents. Like I said, I expect to hear more about this anyway. So,
yeah, well, no, it's definitely going to come back, because there are also suggestions towards tax incentive possibly in some of the areas, including our own, and there's a list of things, and maybe not everything is proper to bring to this forum, but there are definitely things like sizing that we can solve.
Okay. All right. Any questions? If not, on to item 7, payment of bills. Any bills? Anybody?
I don't believe we have any bills.
That's even better. Okay.
Tony.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I've just started to attend the waste reduction subcommittee.
Yep.
I think that's ad hoc subcommittee of the selectmen.
Yep.
Which is going to be very interesting. There will probably be another public information meeting November 9th. We are looking at ways not only to reduce waste, but probably revise the transfer station regulations. So that's coming. I won't go too much more into it unless you want me to, but.
No, but it's a big change that's happening in town. So maybe we do talk about this next time around.
It is, and it's a big change across the United States. Obviously, Mira has now closed, well, it's operating as a transfer station versus the burn plant. So basically our waste, solid waste goes to Ohio and Pennsylvania, which is really nice for their water quality. And sooner or later, they're probably going to say, no, we don't want any more waste. So there's a dual thing of how do you get people to recycle more? And there was a grant for us to collect, I was going to say compostable material, but it also adds meat and things that you typically don't compost in your backyard. So that has been very successful, and we're trying to figure out how it's going to be continued. And the big question is whether or not, if you use the transfer station, it should continue to be free. One of the options is to actually pay for special bags that you would have to both use for the composting as well as the just regular trash. So those are the options that are going to be discussed and at some point voted on by the populace.
I hope they're calculating the amount of trash that ends up in Konza-Ponza across the street from me every time they do something like this.
Well, that's true. But, you know, I remember when we started regulating tires and everybody thought all the tires were just going to be thrown away. And yes, there's always people who decide to throw things away, but you can't do everything just because some people don't follow the regulations. And apparently there are a lot of communities that utilize this and reduce waste, because right now I think it's $115,000 a year for transfer fees. And that's probably going to go up substantially in the next 10 years. So we're going to be paying for it one way or the other. It's either going to be totally
or both.
Yeah.
Yep, or both.
We'll pay to drop it off and pay to haul it away.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Anybody questions for Marion? If not, we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Marion. Looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Daniel. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, guys, thank you all. Have a good night. And like John said, hopefully next time this will be, I'm gonna say it's gonna be hybrid. If I'm gonna spend a little time fixing this tonight and see what happens. So, you know, if you can attend, you're more than welcome to show up at the town hall next time. If not, you can still log in.
Awesome.
With that said, everybody have a good night.
Welcome, Zoe.
Thanks, folks.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Tony, you want me to stick around if you want to work on this, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was if you want to watch me screw this up, you're more than welcome.
I'll stick around for a couple minutes and see if we can figure it out.
I'm gonna leave.
Let me end the recording. That way I'm not swearing on camera.
I'm waiting to ask John a question. The recording's off.
If I can figure out where the end recording is, because they have to move it every time.
Like widen your screen, Tony. If it's a smaller thing, it might just disappear if you have a narrow window.
No, I feel you. I'm using my wife's laptop and it's great for her, but it's very tiny.